Okay, so we're looking today or introducing the topic of the Earth's atmosphere. If I draw this line to represent part of the surface of the Earth, then the Earth's atmosphere is a layer of gases that extend about 10 miles above the surface. Although at that height, the composition of it is changing slightly. If we think about the highest point on the Earth's surface, the highest point is Mount Everest, that's about 5.4 miles above the Earth's surface. So let's think about the gases that are in this atmosphere. About 78% of these gases is nitrogen. Nitrogen has the formula N2, which means each nitrogen molecule is made of two nitrogen atoms bonded together. Nitrogen is what we call an inert gas. It is quite unreactive. It doesn't really do that much. It doesn't react with that much. So there's a lot of it in the atmosphere, and it doesn't have too big an effect on chemical reactions that take place in the Earth's atmosphere. About 21% of the Earth's atmosphere is oxygen, and oxygen has the formula O2. Oxygen is a really important gas. It's used for respiration. So the chemical process that animals and plants use to release energy from glucose. So it's really important. It's also the gas responsible for combustion reactions. There's a very small amount of some other gases in the atmosphere as well. There's about 0.9% of a gas called argon, which is a noble gas. And argon, very much like nitrogen, is inert. In fact, it's even more inert and doesn't really do anything. There is about 0.04% carbon dioxide. That changes at different points in the Earth's atmosphere. We're going to talk a little bit more about carbon dioxide in a minute. There is also a very, very small amount of water vapor in the Earth's atmosphere. And this does change a lot. So clouds obviously are water vapor in the Earth's atmosphere. And depending on the humidity, depends how much water vapor is in the Earth's atmosphere. But the ones that we're really interested in are oxygen and carbon dioxide. So if we think about some of the things that are on the Earth's surface, obviously we've got the oceans. And the oceans are important in terms of the relationship between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Animals, of which human beings are examples, use oxygen. So they are going to take in oxygen and they produce carbon dioxide. So remember, this is the process of respiration that all animals and all plants have to carry out. Now, plant life is responsible for keeping, or one of the things that's responsible for keeping the relationship between oxygen and carbon dioxide in balance. Because although plants also carry out respiration, they need oxygen and produce carbon dioxide, they take in much more carbon dioxide than they release. And this is the process of photosynthesis. So the process of photosynthesis takes in carbon dioxide, carries out a chemical reaction using light as the energy source, and produces oxygen. It also produces water vapor. Remember that this process here is respiration. It's important to recognize that plants also carry out respiration, so they need oxygen and they produce carbon dioxide, but this is a very, very small amount compared to the amount that's used in, so the amount of carbon dioxide that's taken in photosynthesis and the amount of oxygen that's released in photosynthesis. The oceans also contain lots of organisms called phytoplankton, and phytoplankton are actually responsible for an even larger amount of photosynthesis. So an even larger amount of carbon dioxide is taken into the oceans in this process called photosynthesis, and an even larger amount of oxygen is produced. So if we look at the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere and the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, then there's very little carbon dioxide. even though combustion and respiration both produce lots of carbon dioxide. And that's because it's taken in by photosynthetic organisms, phytoplankton, and plant life, and oxygen is released. So there is other processes that remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Some of it's also dissolved in the Earth's oceans, and we'll deal with that in a future lesson. So the other thing that we need to know is that because of this, if we think about the planets in the solar system, we've got the Earth, which has a very, very, very small amount of carbon dioxide, about 0.04% carbon dioxide, and around about 21% oxygen. If we think about the planets either side of us, Mars and Venus, life doesn't exist as far as we understand, but photosynthetic life doesn't really exist on Mars and Venus. So actually, both of these planets have atmospheres with greater than 90% carbon dioxide in their atmosphere. So because of this evolution of life and photosynthesis on the Earth's surface, the Earth has a very, very small amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, 0.04%. Mars and Venus both have atmospheres that have significantly greater than 90% of carbon dioxide in them. We also need to recognize that the amount of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere is fluctuating between 0.03 and 0.05%. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but in the past 200 years, the amount of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere has almost doubled, and that is something that is going to affect global warming. If we have a look at Venus, because of the large amount of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere, it's an extremely hot surface temperature, above 200 degrees Celsius. The Earth would actually be cooler than it is now if we didn't have this small amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. However, the fact that we are increasing it is affecting the surface temperature. So, just as a summary, the key things that we really need to take away from this are that the Earth's atmosphere contains 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and about 0.9% argon, and a very, very small amount of carbon dioxide. The reason it has a small amount of carbon dioxide is because photosynthesis, both in plant life and in phytoplankton in the oceans, take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. In terms of these percentages, we can say it's approximately 80% nitrogen and approximately 20% oxygen. So 4/5 nitrogen and about 1/5 oxygen. Thank you very much.